1 year from now, America will celebrate its 250th anniversary, and it's sure to be a memorable spectacle.
But before we mark that milestone, we take a look back at how in 1976, Americans came together for America's Bicentennial. The celebrations pay tribute to the adoption of the Declaration of Independence and the creation of the United States as an independent republic.
From Operation Sail, with its parade of tall ships in the New York harbor, to a patriotic ticker tape parade up Broadway. This is how the news covered the celebrations and commemorations of America's 200th birthday back in 1976.
What a party it was, and just what America needed, a celebration that would bring people together from all walks of life. Let me tell you about my recollection.
Okay.
My parents brought my brothers and my sister and I down to the waterfront. We would watch the big tall ships come into the harbor, and then when the World Trade Center was there, we went to the observation deck and really got quite the view of what was going on. It was such a celebration, brought people from all walks of life, if just for a moment to forget about their differences and troubles. American pride, uniting and on full display.
My memory, I was just a little kid then. I think it was about 10 years old. I remember the quarters that had the special Bicentennial logos on the back of them, the coins. Yeah. And then also, like, all the commercials and stuff. I didn't understand what a Bicentennial was, but every commercial kind of leaned into it and just made you remember what this country is all about.
It was a fun time.
Well, these days we seem to spend so much of our time and energy surviving and reacting to the unhappy events and the strife and the conflict in our overcrowded world. But the Bicentennial seemed to awaken a certain feeling, a rather dormant spirit that too often seems to be missing from our modern life, and Gabe was one of many who sensed it.
Call it patriotism, call it a rebirth of pride, call it whatever you will, but if you mingled with the crowds who watched Up Sail and the fireworks yesterday, or came down for a last fling like these people at the South Street Seaport this afternoon, you might have felt what we did. A great sense of joy and well-being. For the first time in many years, New Yorkers of all ages and backgrounds out in force, celebrating together. It reminded you of a small-town celebration of the 4th of July, an idealized Norman Rockwell tableau. Only it wasn't a small-town scene, not with these hundreds of thousands out to see the ships. Young families, older people, in many cases grandparents, parents, children, celebrating together. And if you talked to them, you found they articulated what your eyes were seeing, a patriotic euphoria. Bitter, angry, controversial years forgotten, at least for this moment, unity, reborn pride.
Are you a patriotic nut?
No, not at all.
Then what happened to you?
We just got caught up in the feeling. I didn't think I was going to care, and then when the day came, there we were. Just felt great.
The mood is terrific. The celebration is extraordinary, and people are feeling back like it was 20 years ago. I hope to keep it up.
I spent 7.5 years at sea, Gabe, and on all the travels around the world, I never saw anything as incredible as this. Just fantastic.
Everybody is in the spirit of the birthday mood. Yesterday morning on the train, one lady came in and said, "Happy birthday, everybody," and everybody chimed in and singing "Happy Birthday, America." It was a beautiful spirit.
I think people are closer together than they have ever been in a long time. I saw us pulling apart 10 years ago, and maybe people becoming very antagonistic. I think this weekend showed us what we're really like. We're really one.
It is a beautiful mood. It is extremely gorgeous. I can't explain it in words, how the feeling gets you inside.
I really feel that this is a wonderful country. There's a lot of freedom that no place else is like over here. And that people should thank God that they are free and they could do what they want.
And so here on South Street, amidst ships that recall the very birth of this seaport city, you found pride in nation and city. Raymond Loewy once described New York as a distillation of the United States, a proof that there is an American civilization, and he spoke of the power, virility, and sense of destiny of New Yorkers. We felt that today. This is Gabe Pressman.
Operation Sail was a spectacular event with its tall ships and warships dotting the New York waterways, and crowds of people filled up parks and piers to witness history on the Hudson.
For a lot of Americans, July 5th was just as good a day to celebrate the beginning of our 3rd century as a nation as July 4th. And so the party was not over. People were out enjoying the sights and the sunshine, and they were still buzzing over yesterday's super celebration. It will not happen again in our lifetimes. But what an incredible happy birthday we had, a truly American adventure that will be etched in the memory of the many millions who were witnesses and participants. Operation Sail was a magnificent success from every angle, even more beautiful and spectacular than we were led to believe it would be. And most of the gloom and doom predictions went down the drain in a spirit of happy cooperation, befitting the event, the very special day, and the unabashed joy of the American people. New York Harbor was jammed with a promised armada of warships, great sailing ships, and thousands of pleasure boats. And leading the great parade, witnessed by so many millions on the shores, was the proud host ship, the Coast Guard cutter's Pretty Eagle, unmistakable with her dashing orange and blue sash and her very special grace. Eagle led the slow flotilla gracefully up the Hudson in a spectacle few of us could ever have expected to see in this racy age of jets and nuclear power with so much accent on speed and efficiency.
And as would be expected, New Yorkers came out for America in a big way.
For 6 million landlubbers, Opsail will also be hard to forget. Crowds lined up in an orderly fashion yesterday, waiting for the New York Harbor Parade to begin. Battery Park alone was jammed at 8 a.m., and literally thousands were standing in line to get a seat on the Staten Island Ferry. A 100-acre landfill site, which stretched on West Street from Battery Park to Duane, had 17,000 bleacher seats for those who wanted to see the tall ships. People paid $25 for a reserved seat and picnic lunch. As the day went on, crowds left the waterfront to check activities in the South Street Seaport area. Vendors lined the streets selling everything from T-shirts to food, and apparently business was pretty good.
How's business?
I don't know. It's okay.
How long have you been out here?
1 day.
How much watermelon have you sold?
About 4.
4 whole watermelons? That's all?
Yes.
How much money have you made?
Tell you the truth, I don't know.
There was plenty of entertainment for the spectators. This particular group sang a few tunes at the South Street Seaport. Traffic wasn't as heavy as was expected on the main streets. Apparently, many people decided to use the public transportation. But all's well that ends well, and I think we can safely say New York City pulled off quite a 4th of July celebration. This is Doris McMillan reporting.
All right, come on. You can't have the 4th of July without fireworks. Here's a look back at the brilliant sky show that lit up above the Statue of Liberty.
Many came by car, by bus, and by jet from faraway places. Others arrived from all of the neighborhoods of New York City to see the spectacle and the fireworks. Last night, the Statue of Liberty and the sky around her were set aglow with great splashes of reds and whites and orange. And people stood on the streets and docks, on the sidewalks, and on building tops, watching the explosion of color. And Americans from Gainesville, Florida, St. Louis, the Bronx, spontaneously and shyly at first, sang our national anthem while the brilliant sky show went on. Millions of people celebrating, and that means moving about and eating and drinking, having a good time, a glorious 4th, as we say.
Were you one of the lucky ones that got a set of 1976 commemorative stamps? If not, here's what they looked like.
Well, the postmark itself has always been an item of identity, and the 200th anniversary of our country just happens once every 200 years, or should I say the only time it'll ever happen, and it will be available on the 4th. If they come to the post office on the 5th, they'll get a 5th postmark. So the only time they'll be able to get a 4th of July postmark is on the 4th itself.
From coast to coast, America went all out for the Bicentennial. Here's a look at how LA and Atlanta celebrated America's independence.
For amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty, above the fruited plain.
come out and sit on the curb in the rain to watch a parade?
Well, we wanted to participate in the Bicentennial.
Because it's going to be good.
You don't mind getting wet?
No, I don't mind getting wet.
You don't mind getting wet?
No.
Why not?
I've also been in baseball games. I had to slide in the mud.
You don't mind the rain?
Not at all.
Why not? This is our Bicentennial parade.
It wasn't all celebration all the time. For some vendors, the party ended when they got scammed.
And as you might expect, the bad guys were apparently busy trying to take advantage of all of the celebrating to make a buck their way. And here's a report on that from Doris McMillan.
I was watching the crowds line up this morning at the South Street Seaport, all waiting to take a tour of the tall ships. Across the street, the vendors were getting ready for the day's business. I saw a very interesting man selling the Declaration of Independence. He resembled Ben Franklin, so I strolled over to talk to him. Now, we all know that Ben was a very enterprising man, but from my conversation with this Ben Franklin and some of the other vendors, free enterprise wasn't working on Fulton Street.
Well, I paid $125 in the parking lot over there. We haven't made a cent of it. Now we've come here and set up, and these gangsters are walking around. They want $50 cash, which I haven't even made $13 today.
Who wants the cash?
Some guys. Well, some guys are walking around with Bicentennial Committee buttons on and bogus printing. They have a thing that says Bicentennial Committee, a permit $50.
Are you saying you're being hustled then?
It appears that way. I would think so. I would think so because I called 2 policemen over and I told them what was happening and they just nodded and I said, well, you can lock me up if you want. And they just walked away.
They asked for like $20 more later on the day. They asked 15 and then they said, well, take it, you gotta spend 20 more and stuff.
Did they threaten to turn over your booth or anything?
Oh, they almost did. They almost did that. They said, you don't pack up, we're gonna throw you out. I don't know what.
It wasn't a policeman that told you this?
No. Police was looking at them. They didn't give it them.
I spoke to a few men wearing plain white buttons marked Bicentennial Committee, and they appeared upset that I questioned the vendors about the $50 payment. That's up to them.
One extent to leave, please. One extent to leave.
This is a public place.
Would you extent to leave, please? I can't stop. I'll get the police.
I went back to Ben Franklin to see how he was faring.
They told me to move, and they were getting pretty rough, and they even helped me put the stuff in the truck. And the city won't protect me, so it's either move or get killed. They're very dangerous men.
And what are you going to do?
I'm going to move.
I spoke to police about this apparent shakedown. They said the vendors would have to file a complaint. I asked one of the vendors for her receipt, which had a telephone number on it and the name Peter. I called several times during the day. I got no answer. This is Doris McMillan reporting.
And that was the news then.
Thanks for watching this episode of That Was the News Then. Be sure to join us in July of 2026 as Fox 5 celebrates America's 250th with special programming and news coverage on Fox 5, Fox Local, and YouTube.